Welcome. You're watching Making Life Brighter Radio, and we welcome you from all over. I'm your host, Winifred Adams, and today we have a recap of what's going on in our world because we need to prepare. And you know that I am all about preparedness. And if you've been following along on Making Life Brighter for all these years on Voice America, you know that I am the queen of preparedness. And I want to share with you some preparedness tips today. I want to go over what we need to prepare for as the eagle flies in front. And literally. So we have some good luck with that. We'll take that. Thank you very much. And we need luck right now in our world. We have quite a bit going on. And first, I'd like to start with something jolly because we like to go jolly here on Making Life Brighter. And I'm going to read you what sits on my desk day in and day out. And it's called the Happy Camper Creed. The Happy Camper Creed is, I am a happy camper. No whens, thens, no if onlys. It's a choice I make. I am happy without any reason at all. And that's a really good creed to carry around these days because every day we get up, something new is changing and it's quite epic. And I don't think it's ever going to be the same. So we've come into a new space and time, literally. And this new space and time is fragmenting in front of us. Now, this is really an interesting topic because last night I was deeply involved in Ashton Forbes Live. And if you don't know who Ashton Forbes is, we've had him here on the show before. You can go to my YouTube channel on Making Life Brighter and listen to the interview that he and I did then. Since then, quite a bit's changed because he has been headlong into all things fusion, all things, all things exposing the hidden truths that are kept from us in science and beyond. So he is a researcher, a truther, and you can find him on X where he does his lives, and he is quite extensively a phenomenal researcher, truly. He's the first of many things. He's a very, very bright individual, and he's on point, which brings me to my next point. He was speaking last night of David Lapointe, and David Lapointe is also a researcher, and he is someone that has a very unique perspective, and I had the pleasure of sitting down with him for 4 hours over holiday at Christmas time, and we had a very in-depth conversation about magnetics, magnetic fields, consciousness, and what drives consciousness, what drives our world as we know it. So going back to Ashton, if you go to Ashton Forbes on X and listen to his live he did last night on wormholes, you're going to have a deep dive in science that anybody can understand. And you will have more context to what it is that I'm saying and will be saying in the next upcoming weeks. I have some of the greatest minds in our world today that are going to be featured here on Making Life Brighter, and technology that's free technology that's coming, and people that are on the forefront of the Tesla technology as well. And we even have some opposing or differing points of view around that, including consciousness. Last night, Ashton Forbes on X was able to explain some things that were really interesting, and it makes a lot of sense. Why does this interest me as a quantum healer and a radio show host? Because in quantum healing, at the level in which I do that work, everything that they're talking about is how that work gets done. Everything they're talking about, the acceleration rates of things and how it doesn't take a giant Jupiter, as he said last night, to make an effect on the magnetic field or change the oscillation rate. As a matter of fact, it doesn't take much, but it really comes down to and boils down to intention. And so we're at a crossroads in our world right now with the discoveries in the new light energy that's coming up, as well as all the energies that are coming in that are fracturing timelines and forcing us to sort of make a choice to a different timeline. Now, to give that context in the world of healing, for example, if I have somebody that's very, very ill and they are extremely negative, I have to override the negativity first so that all the other things can get lined up into a harmonic or the proper magnetics in order to make that effect. But if they're not believing in it, it takes that much more energy to override that and get them into a space where they can receive it. And that is the key. So if people can't receive that which is coming their way, they will be resistant. And everything that they're talking about and everything that Ashton's talking about is he drills down through these things and is looking for, say, the truth behind cold fusion, the truth behind fusion versus cold fusion, the truth behind magnetics and cold fusion, those types of things. All of this plays out in our own bodies daily. We are that orbital field. We're looking out there like it's in outer space someplace. It's not. It's in you. And it's happening in you. He's just explaining what, let's say, the world uses in a manner of speaking for other activities, but he's explaining a microcosm that's in your field of energy in your body, in all bodies. And he's explaining that in a way that is also speaking to, let's say, jet propulsion, rocket propulsion, cold fusion, nuclear reactors, whatever he's discussing at the time, that's the macro. You, the person, are the micro of that very same science. And we, as a collective of consciousness, come together in volition, and we've talked about that many times in this show, come together in volition, which changes the rate of oscillation, which I've discussed before here, the rate of flux in a body, in a cellular structure, in the plasma, in the light field, in the oscillating particles of the atomic particles that make you up as a being. All of that then has an effect. And so he's right last night, because I've taken people through wormholes. Now people are going to say, oh, that's crazy. You've never been through a wormhole. Well, actually, we have for many, many years, and safely for that matter. We have gone through them carefully, and we have gone through them in our quantum healing meditations long before all this. Years and years ago, we started this. Back in 2011 or something, it started. I don't know how to explain that, but he's kind of explaining that. But safely, we went through that. And we distilled down to particles of light and then vibrational frequencies. And through that, we can do what he just said last night on his show. So I am very much attuned to what he's saying because he's explaining what we actually do. And we do it in a group setting, and you can't deny it. No, everyone's there by their own free will. Silently, they're all having the same experience. And even though no one's talking to one another, at the time that we're finished, they can all explain the same experience that they all had. How's that? Well, see, we think that that is way out there and something that someone in authority needs to discover for us and tell us what that is. But in fact, we as sentient beings, much like they'll find out in these spacecraft one day, are also run by sentient beings, consciousness, and quantum flux, quantum, not even computing, quantum, like a burst of quantum energy. That is the propulsion mechanism. All of that is similar to what happens in you and how you can move as a being through the universe, through portals, through astral planes, through fields. And so we take that in here and we distill that down and we actually use it. But the purpose being in the quantum healing meditations is to bring people back to a level of quietude within their nervous system so they can more readily line up to their spirit and their own light. And it has profound healing effects on people when we do this. So yes, we've experienced wormholes firsthand. And we have traveled out and back safely. We've gone to different galaxies. We've gone to the central sun. We've gone to all kinds of places. And someday, mark this show, someday, that won't be weird. That won't be odd. And that won't be rare. It is possible. And we can do that. And it makes what's happening here on Earth seem so very, very dense. From human behavior and human choices to selfishness to ego. And out there, there's none of that. You're free and you can feel it. You rise out of yourself and you're able to experience that freedom. And by the time you come back from that journey, you get to look back down over the earth plane and see it with this grand, loving compassion. And it makes all these things that are having to play out here on earth in the earthly duality 3D timelines so silly, so pathetic in nature and immature. And that's the word I'll use, immature. We have far more immaturity than we have maturity, or we would be further along right now. And so we're going to review some of that that's playing out here down in the 3D density. But I wanted to really shout out Ashton's show last night, and I really ask you guys to go and check it out. You can follow me along on X at Winifred Adams. That's one N. And you can follow Ashton along at Ashton Forbes on X as well. He's going to talk about wormholes. He's also going to talk about the man and his science that I met with over holiday, and that's David LaPointe. So looking forward to having you check that out because it's very important information and it speaks a lot. It might not be in your world today when you have to go to work. What are wormholes to you? But they are definitely part of the grander environment, and they're even part of the environment on the internal landscape of consciousness. So we will be looking at that a little more extensively in the Ascension Series Part 2, which I'll be teaching in the next few weeks. So if you're interested in joining us and you want to come along, please reach out to me at makinglifebrighter@yahoo.com, and you can sign up there. Because we are going to be going into the depth of consciousness and what the masters bring to the table in lieu of that consciousness awareness and how you apply that with the knowledge. We'll be right back. You're listening to Making Life Brighter, and we have more for you right here. We're going to get into the world events and the preparedness and what that means. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. And we're back. You're listening to Making Life Brighter Radio, and I'm your host, Winifred Adams. Thank you for listening today. And I was just sharing with you that I'll be teaching an upcoming class at Making Life Brighter called the Ascension Series 2. So if you need to sign up for that, please go ahead and reach out at makinglifebrighter@yahoo.com. Follow along on X. You can follow along for outtakes and bonus shows on YouTube at Making Life Brighter. And the Ascension Series is going to go deep diving into consciousness and ascension into that. How do you ascend in consciousness? What does it take to ascend into consciousness? And conscious awareness is not for the faint of heart. As many light workers know, it's not for the faint of heart. Our world might be leaning more on medical intuitives like myself and quantum healers as we go forward, though we are stepping into a time of free energy upcoming, which is going to be helpful to us. At the moment, we might experience some interruptions. And when I started the show, I talked about being the queen of preparedness, and I was joking, of course, but I'm not joking. I've been involved in in-depth preparedness for over 20 years. And preparedness is something that you do for yourself, but it also might be something that you do for someone else in case something happens to you and someone else can use or utilize what you did. So if you want to do something great for your neighborhood, organize. Find out in your neighborhood how many people are on life-saving medications. Find out how many people are infirm. Find out in your group what you would do in an incident. And if you had an incident, what kind of command system would you have in your neighborhood? And mobilize your neighborhood. Now, this sounds more familiar because these words are used more often today. However, we're coming from a place where it could really happen. It's happening to other countries. And though those people hardly have a minute to prepare, you never know what could happen. So it's always good to be prepared. And preparedness starts with, at this juncture, on this very day, getting your gas tank filled up so that when the prices skyrocket soon, you'll have the ability to still go somewhere without having to pay those high prices. The other incentive is to get food stores that you might need, maybe even a water filter. And you can get those on Amazon, or you can get a water straw and it'll filter the water you're going to drink. You can get simple water filters that you can put on the counter and use, but you want to have extra supplies right now. Number one, because we may experience a leap. Because of the Iran war, we might experience a leap in pricing. If we experience that leap, you may be in a position where you might need something. And if you have that mobilization within your neighborhood, maybe somebody has more of what they can share. Maybe you have more of what you can share. And you also know like the critical points of who you can help and how you can help. And that is, we're going to assume that you do want to help and that somebody would also want to help you. Now, this is important because when I did the preparedness program out in Malibu, which was the first of its kind, I basically took and organized through the FEMA CERT team. And the FEMA runs the CERT programs, CERT, in townships, cities, and all that. And they coordinate with first responders, with incident commanders, with the police and the fire. And it's good for anybody, anywhere in any township to become part of that. If you haven't gone through your CERT training in your hometown, I highly recommend that you do that. It was very educational. And from that, I developed a program because there was a need. And the need was, at the time I lived on the ocean, way up at the end near Ventura County, on the beach. And we had that Thailand tsunami that came over 13 weeks later, but it did hit us. And it hit us and the wave went up over the house. And then it rained buckets of water and the mountain from the backside came down along and almost hit the house. And everything was cut off. And then it sort of dawned on me, wait a minute, this coastline is 27 miles long. Where are the places people can evacuate to? And there were none. You have one of the wealthiest communities in the world, and there was none of that. Why not? Well, that inspired me to go back to the CERT team, go back to the mayor, go back to the city and say, look, I think we need this. I think we need to put this in right away. If you're having fires annually and you're having these kinds of big waves that come along, well, hello, let's get this done. So we did. And we put in 13 different sea containers. And this sea container program that I developed and got approved through the CERT team and through the mayor and the city hall, city council, went in and they had all the supplies and we created evacuation zones. And so one was at the high school, which is a little more elevated and safer from, runoff from flooding or any kind of heavy rains. Also from tsunamis. Well, There's 100-foot cliffs there, so the tsunami might hit first over there, and above that, you'd probably have a safe space. So we looked into the logistics of all of this, and we placed these very strategically on the 27-mile coastline. This was then mimicked around the world and used as an example for different places. And now it's just become a mainstay, and they've used it many, many times. So this is important because what we put in there was well thought out. And the neat part is, because we evolve and technology evolves and people have evolved since then, we can improve on that wherever we do it, or even in your own neighborhood. If in your neighborhood you had one sea container someplace that everyone agreed on, and in that was extra supplies, and there was maybe one or two people that you could be sure to count on to open that up if you needed it, or however you manage that, you might have what you need in the event of something that happens that's catastrophic. We don't think in terms of that because our world is quite simple. It's really easy today compared to 100 years ago. Excuse me. But what's happening is people don't think through it up front. And by the time that wall of fire is raging at you and you don't have the mental capacity to think straight anymore, you want something in place, either that you can quickly get up and go with, or that you can count on and go to. And the go-to was used more often than people thought. So where people were quite comfortable in Malibu with their homes the way they were and thought this will never happen to me, they got a rude awakening that not only can it can happen really fast. And you might be cut off from other places, and you might be forced to go in a certain direction, and you would hope when you got to that space that there would be something at the end there that you could count on. So that's what I'm talking about. To take a little bit of awareness, whether it's with your church group, your neighborhood, your city even, and take that up as a means of assistance to your neighborhood. That would be really important. So what did we have in there? Well, I will kind of give the more improved version now. We definitely had blankets. We had foldable cots because some people would need to lay down. You don't know the condition they're in. Some people, you need folding chairs because they may have a heart problem and this was a stressful event already. And by the time they reach there, they need to sit down. You need something for warmth. You need something like a tent you can create and set up quickly in case there's weather. You would need some more easily, like bottled water and things like that. That's simplicity. But you need tools, maybe. Maybe you need some tools, and you would need food stores that can be individualized because you're going to have more than your own family, right? So these types of things. Now, if you got into your own personal kit, like a backpack, and everybody that lives in California is trained for that, and they really should revisit that right this minute today, because there is predicted a 7.0 earthquake coming to the Ventura County area as they line up what they're seeing potentially in the next week. So if that's the case and that happens, California may see a grand earthquake in SoCal sometime in the next week. Let's hope not. However, that's again why I'm talking about this. These things are coming up. This is major. And the other day I listened to the most beautiful thing on YouTube about a near-death experience of a lady, and Jesus had come to her and told her what was coming at the end of March. And the prophecy was that there would be great shaking, there would be great kind of a humbling, and there would be sort of light in the sky, and there would be a mass event, essentially. Well, here we are, and the war is happening. What happened yesterday in the war, we'll get into next segment. But I'm getting at the fact that preparedness is key, right? We have to do preparedness now. And when we do the simple things, going back to the earthquake, like having a day pack ready, a backpack that you carry with you, and you get used to it just like a military person. You always have it prepared. Every day you check on it so you know what you have. Now, this sounds crazy. It sounds a little anal retentive for the average person. But when you're under that kind of duress of the unexpected, you don't think straight. So to have it ready and prepared and with you, whether it's always in your car, updated in your car, maybe you can't use your car and you need to put a backpack on and walk. Maybe you have a bicycle. Maybe you have an electric bike. If gas prices are too high, you might want to get a bike. You might want to get a bike with a basket. You might want to get an electric bike with a basket. You might want to do these things now, but an electric bike also requires, if you're going to use the electricity portion of it, for you to have it charged. So therefore, having a solar battery, which we had in the bins, having a solar power pack device that you can put out, having one that you can even crank. You have other options today, having a generator, these types of things. All this stuff is necessary. And you can get crank solar flashlights. I highly recommend everybody has, especially right now, an emergency radio where you don't need electricity for that radio, but it's portable and you can put up the antenna and you can hear anything that might be transmitted that you could tune into. You might need that direction. I've been in that space before when the fires hit. Everything's cut off. The phones don't work. You have no idea which way the event is coming at you. You have no idea what roads are open and you don't know how to get out. So, not to put fear out there, but to have people understand and wake up from the doldrums of this could never happen to me and realize not only can it happen, if it does happen, you're prepared. And that your neighbor might also equally be prepared in case something happens to you. So you might need to rely on one another. So this is a basic tenet right now. And with the earthquakes that might be coming and the war at hand, even though we say maybe it's not a war, there's some fallout from it. And the biggest one coming this way will be pricing really soon. So we're going to jump into that next segment. Stay tuned. You're listening to Making Life Brighter Radio, and I'm your host, Winifred Adams. Follow along on X under Winifred Adams and Facebook on Making Life Brighter. Share, and we'll be right back. Thank you. And we're back. You're listening to Making Life Brighter Radio. I'm your host, Winifred Adams. You're listening to our show on preparedness today, and we're also recapping what's going on in the world for real. So just to touch base on what I've been talking about, it's important that you get prepared. It's important that you be prepared just like anything. You know, no one knew that COVID was going to hit. I told you the COVID was going to hit because Sergeant Cotel informed me that COVID was coming down the pike from his intel sources. And we couldn't fathom that then, but it happened and we all experienced it. So once again, here we are. And they're speaking of possibly another COVID.2 viral release or something like that. So this is a good time just both between stress of the world, fracturing timelines, possible big earthquakes, and economic stress that might be coming our way, or any other kind of unknown event that is real or otherwise 3D hologrammed that might be scary, we need to be prepared. And more importantly, our immune system needs to be prepared. We wait until the last minute to be reactive to this. And I know, because as a healer, I get that. Everyone has a reactive moment. And that's why I'm doing the Ascension series, so we stay grounded and tied to spirit and in the sweet space of spirit and the reminder of spirit, even if the world gets nutty. And you're prepared in your heart, your soul, your mind. You're able to hear your spirit and your spirit direction more easily. You're not simply reacting by, adrenaline instinct. You're having more of a quieted, calm reaction to something. And so preparedness speaks of that. To prepare, in quantum grammar, that means no prepare, but in our fiction grammar, we know that that means to prepare. And it is important that you do. It's important because you have no idea how that wave goes out into the ether and travels around the world, and someone else's consciousness might pick up on your preparedness effort and also be inspired, including a kid that doesn't have all the adult things in their mind. We are thinking beings, so we're sending out an electrical current, and the electrical current is either caught by other people, just like spirit is caught. It's there, but you have to kind of catch its frequency. And so your thinking waves may be the same. And to have that preparedness ready is necessary. Now, seriously, there is potentially a big earthquake brewing over California right now. And it just went off on the coast outside of Point Doom there. And they're expecting maybe a potentially bigger earthquake. So let's pray and hope that that doesn't happen and it's downgraded and the earth can naturally let go. That's necessary. But having your backpack. So I just want to touch on that just a quick moment more. What would be good? What do you need? Well, as an herbalist, I was big on having things like cayenne pepper. And for government purposes in the bins, we couldn't really do that because that's something we had to be more generic. But in your personal, you can do whatever you want to do. And in this case, having plastic baggies, collect rainwater, put something you find that you need in there, keep organized, a black magic marker so you can mark a spot, either that you're telling someone something or that you've been there. Because as we went through the CERT program and the training, we had to do search and rescue. We had to go into buildings and deal with incidents, all kinds of different incidents, and then also administer any kind of first aid that we could. So most people will not be doing that, but it's good to have a black magic marker with you at all times, no matter what. It's good to have a pair of rubber gloves with you or several pair. You never know what you're going to get your hands into. And if it's somebody else's blood by just the incident, you don't even know what's in their blood. So these are things that are important. Keep some of that in your car at all times. Put that in your glove box. That's what they taught us. Have that with you all the time. Never be without it. And so you begin to train like a military person in a way, and you have a methodology for that. In your backpack that you take with you, you need first aid kit. So buy a basic first aid kit. But you can add to it things like colloidal silver gel, which is more natural, and you can even put that in your mouth and your gum line. You could administer it to animals or wounds. That's easy. And we talked about that with Robert Scott Bell the other day. So I ask you to go back and review that show with Robert Scott Bell because he gave a great show on natural healing with copper and gold and silver. But that's very important. Colloidal silver can be used as sort of a natural immune booster and antimicrobial. It's been known as an antimicrobial. Cayenne pepper you can have, and it helps to open up the pathways for circulatory. People, more often than not, die of a heart attack due to the stress of an incident than they do the actual incident. This happened many times after fires. You just don't hear about it. But People constrict out of tension, shock, fear. That cayenne pepper works as magic to open up. All you do is dump a capsule in some water and drink it down. And it's very similar to what they give you if you were to have a heart attack. And so it's not the same, but it's the same effect, and it's been used that way. I've heard many stories about that, actually. So something like that can also, though it would sting like you know what, could be used in a wound. And what it does, it'll draw blood to the area and help to cauterize that wound. It'll kill fungus. It's been known to kill bacteria. It's it's good for everything. So that's something that would be for sure a go-to. And I would have that no matter what. I would definitely have that and carry that. The other thing I love, and I want you all to think about, is thieves spray. So Young Living Essential Oils has a thieves spray that they sell, and that's amazing. And I'll put that in the notes here and the links to these things if people want it. But the thieves spray, you can spray in your mouth. You can put it on toothbrush. It's going to kill all the bacteria and the things. It's going to help to hydrate. You could sniff it up your nose, though it's intense. If you're starting to feel like you have a cough, you can breathe it in. I use it all the time on airplanes. It's in my purse. I carry it. I use it constantly. These are reminders, and these are important reminders. Anything you can think of, like safety pins, that's a good idea. A little bit of rope or a bungee cord. You never know what you need to hang from a limb or be, hanging with a tree for whatever, whether it's keeping it away from an animal or extending it into something. You need a tool too. Because they've taken away ceremoniously our great army knives, people have lost a lot of them, and sadly, they've gone to the wayside or some kind of dump somewhere when we could actually have them. We need something like that in your bag because that is also really crucial for any kind of portable tool. It gets really heavy in a backpack if you're not strong anymore or you're older and you're trying to carry some things around. And most of all, you need some water. But to have that water straw that I talked about, that's important. So these are things in rubber bands. Hey, you know what? We don't see rubber bands anymore very much. A really strong rubber band is a very handy tool. So that's something that you could do. You know what also works are women's hair ties. Your girlfriend has long hair or whatever, get her hair ties and put a couple of those in there. Small ones, big ones, whatever. That's a nice rubber band, essentially, a good sturdy one that will last. So we have all kinds of things that we're looking at. It's prudent to pay attention right now. With the current play out from yesterday and where we're headed, everybody has known that we're headed for a different kind of economy upcoming. Is it a shift? Is it something that we're actually intending to change to? Is it for the good or is it for the bad? Well, I feel from spirit we are headed for a better world. How we get there exactly, not certain, but we will maybe have some bumps in between. And it just goes to show that what they're doing and talking about with annexing Alberta from Canada, our northerly neighbor there, may be prudent timing as well. Now, technically speaking, the U.S. is not in a shortage of supplies and oil from what they're saying. But then again, this might be a rerouting of things. And so we are not heavily relying upon other countries. There's 3 different playouts that are going on over in the other countries. And I just want to tell you what is up right now, if you're not aware. First of all, with the bombing yesterday of all the bombings of the strategic spacings, what's happening is it's interrupting the shipments of nitrogen and potassium fertilizer blends. What does that do? It's hitting right at the very time that farmers are planting all over the globe. And so farmers need to plant now, but they're being kind of kept from what they need. And if that happens, there's going to be a bit of a shortage of things. And food pricing could go up because they didn't get their planting or fertilizer and their seeds in the right timing. So interestingly enough, 1/3 of the global fertilizer transits the Strait of Hormuz, and China happens to be the world's largest fertilizer producer. And when the strait closed, China suspended exports in that same month. So the global food system lost its supply route and its primary alternative supplier at the same time. There's no third source here, and there's no backup to the backup. So these things are playing out in real time for us. And that is telling us, for example, that we have a position, and in that position, now we are in a space and a place of, prices are going to go up. We don't have a choice in that. You're going to see gas prices go up. They've already gone up. You're going to see the other food pricing go up. All of this is something that we are going to be faced with very quickly here. And hence my talking about the position of this situation that we're in. So we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. You're listening to Making Life Brighter. I'm your host, Winifred Adams. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Thank you for listening to Making Life Brighter, and I'm your host, Winifred Adams. I appreciate you today, especially, and I ask you to share this show far and wide. Go back and listen to some of the other shows we've done previously. I would really like you to understand how important William Cotel's show is, and what we covered on that show explains the back history of what's happening right now in Iran and some of the other narratives that are happening, like what I touched on just now regarding the fertilizer is a huge backdrop to what's going on and what will affect us globally. So, aside from talking about whose agendas are doing what and what their final agenda is, our focus is on preparedness and just what is really happening. What's the narrative? Some people feel that Trump is making a play where he basically stepped back and allowed Israel to bomb Iran. Iran then turned around and retaliated on Qatar. Qatar said, hey, we're not taking this. And now Trump is standing back saying, no, we don't want to do that, and gave Iran another way out by basically saying, hey, don't do that. We'll kind of let things slide if you don't do that. But what's the real premise behind all this? Well, we know that there's some gold that sits underneath Iran. And it's been said by many people that suggested really that there was kind of a funneling system through Iran for terrorist monies. And lots of money ran through there, along with the stockpile of gold in Iran. This then turns into sort of a way station for the Middle East and other countries. Now everybody is expanding into it, and as of, I believe, early this morning or late last night, Russia was bombed by Iran, and I haven't been able to look at that deeper yet, but if that's the case, you are going to see this escalate to all different directions. But remember, Mother Earth gets a say too, and Mother Earth can shake up the world in a fell swoop. Then again, other people can set off ley lines as a means of warfare and disrupt different areas. So here's where I come back to with the preparedness. If some of the gameplay, for example, was that you disrupt different fault lines and those fault lines trigger huge earthquakes, that really renders cities useless in the moment. You don't need to throw a bomb on them. They had their own underground shaking, which ruins an infrastructure. But everybody in between is halted. So being prepared for the unexpected is critical, and I can't say that enough today. I'm really following along both what's really happening in the world, the prophecies that are happening in the world, and what I've been told spiritually along the way, and what I know in my heart of hearts that is coming to me, and hence I'm sharing that with you. That this time frame requires prudence, spiritual connection, and preparedness. So going back to the public narrative of what's happening on Earth, they're saying that China's logic is transparent and that since Hormuz disrupted global supply, the prices surged. But Chinese domestic farmers face the same planting windows as everybody else, and Beijing chose to protect its own agriculture by hoarding the molecule of the rest of the world's needs, as it says here. This is the same country that's simultaneously drawing commercial crude reserves at 1 million barrels per day, running military exercises near Taiwan. And if you haven't heard about that, they plan on just basically cutting off Taiwan. And then the U.S. has no way of really intervening because they just basically starve Taiwan out by cutting them off. Receiving discounted Iranian oil through the Permission Strait and restricting the phosphate exports, and it's suspended. So, you know, every decision is an objective, and what somebody's in the world feel is that China looks at itself as first. So it's quite strategic in its aim. But then again, the rest of the world would absorb that shortage. And so people need to understand that there's not one event going on here now regarding just the bombing of Iran or now Israel involved in different geographical positions of natural gas and oil. But it actually has to do with commerce, and in this case, fertilizer, the planting of things, and then how each country positions itself. There's some narratives that say that China, Russia, and the US are going to come up against each other in a cooperation. There's others that say that Russia and the US will do that. It doesn't matter who's doing what. The bottom line is, how does it affect you? What's going to happen based on what they're doing? Because you, the average person, can't really do anything about that except pray. So it's causing, soybeans are rising, and it's causing and they're rising in price, but it's causing a shrinking corn crop, and this is true. So right now we have cattle herds sitting at 86.2 million, and that's a 75-year low, just to be aware. The protein goes from the corn feed to the meat to the eggs to the dairy to the grocery shelf. China's ban, however, didn't create that cascade. The Hormuz blockage the Strait of Hormuz blockage actually created that. It stopped the commerce. So China's ban essentially removed the last exit ramp for them. And we have barrels of oil going up. Gold is at 5,000 plus. We have a situation here where everything is going to reverberate. And there's many different agendas, which we'll get into on another show, that are going on, including the eugenics agenda in Canada right now, which has people being basically euthanized. And then they're talking about the potential, and it could be through an earthquake, that both through prophecy and people's warnings, that all the dams on the earth will be demolished and return earth to its natural water flows. And everybody said, watch the water years ago. Nobody knew what that meant. Well, we've been seeing lots of water events for certain, and the amount of flooding is definitely increasing. But if the dams in the US actually broke, California would be an island again. It would be essentially an island. So let's look at the domino effect before we close. I just really want to kind of get into this. It's important. So Whale Guru on X, which I posted on the page, and you can check this out. There is a domino effect from this point of view that I want to read to you. It's very important. Iran is not just a country at war, it's a funding machine. And since 1979, the Islamic regime has been the single biggest financier of the terrorism in the Middle East, which is what William also kind of spelled out in many different ways. Here's what collapses the moment that regime falls. Domino number one, Hezbollah, Lebanon. Iran sends them $700 million to $1 billion per year, and that is their entire war budget. No Iran, no Hezbollah. Domino number two, Hamas, Gaza. We talked about that. 93% of Hamas funding comes from Iran. $100 to $350 million per year in cash. No Iran, no Hamas to fight. Domino number three, the Houthi, the Yemens, the rebels. That's what William talked of as well. 100 to 200 million per year in direct transfers, plus weapons, plus training, plus IRGC commanders on the ground. No Iran, Houthis go back to being a tribal militia with AKs. Domino number four, Iraqi militias. Kataib Hezbollah, Asaib al-Haq, and Badr organizations, all funded, armed, and directed by Iran's IRGC. No Iran, they lose their patron fast. Domino number five, Syrian militias. Iran spent $16 billion propped up Assad. Now that's important. They spent $16 billion propping up Assad. Probably the United States CIA did. The entire Syrian proxy network runs on Iranian money. Well, it's not really Iranian money, is it? No Iran, no money, no mission. People keep asking why this operation matters. This is why. One source, 5 networks, billions in annual terror funding. Pull the source, the whole network dies. There's food for thought, folks. There's a lot of points of view going on, and we need to, as Monkey Work says, stay frosty because we're in it. He warned us for years, and now we're in it. It's happening. This is happening. So go check out Monkey Works and check out his Skynet reports. He's pretty accurate with all that. He called it. We've been sending stuff over for a long time. This was lining up in many ways. Now, the irony is, we've talked a long time on this channel about Russell J. Gould and his authority and having the Title IV flag. And he actually apparently created some directives recently on contract calling all the troops back. Now, people would say, how could he do that? Well, you'll have to go back and watch Last Flag Standing and Piercing Dynasty to understand that. So I recommend you do that for a little more closure. However, it's interesting because even though he did that, that's not happening. That's not happening over there right now. Moore went over there to handle this. So what's going to play out next, how it's playing out, we can only watch. But I am telling you from my position of hearing different points of view on a regular basis, I would highly suggest you prepare and prepare for everything, not with anxiety. Remember, how you prepare is how you get to experience that too. So prepare in love, prepare in gratitude, prepare and say, I get to, and be willing to help your neighbor because you might need to. And hopefully they'd be willing to help you too. We need to get out of our selfish world. And more importantly, in this 3D moment right here, right now in this timeline, as we shift, it behooves us all to mature up into a space of cooperation instead of constant selfish strife. So go jolly, everybody. Go out and make somebody else's life brighter. Stay tuned. We'll have more for you as we go along. And may you not experience earthquakes or war on your back doorstep, but may we pray for a better world because we are actually going there. So hold out for that. Those light workers of us that have been here a long time, we've put in a lot of groundwork, so I'm not giving up now. Go jolly, everyone. Thank you for listening, and please share.